First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured.
I'm Steve Schlozman. I'm an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School. I'm a physician, a child psychiatrist, practice here in Boston. I've always loved zombie movies since I was a kid. I loved all horror movies. And I'm the author of the upcoming novel, The Zombie Autopsies. So what I'm going to do now is teach you about zombies. We're going to call this Zombie Autopsies 101. I'm going to tell you all you need to know for the impending zombie apocalypse about the brain of a zombie. So to do that, first we got to define a zombie. And here we're talking about a specific zombie, the ones you see in the movies that people like George Romero made famous. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. The slow, shambling zombies that seem very, very ignorant, seem unable even to open a window, seem always hungry, and seem to just sort of stumble about. If we're going to decide that these things really exist in our fictional world, we've got to say what's wrong with them. So let's sort of break it down. First, what do we know about zombies? We know they don't walk well. We know they stumble about and they shamble and they can't sort of keep their balance. They often hold their hands out in front of them to maintain balance. They have what's called truncal ataxia, where their body goes back and forth. The region of the brain responsible for helping us to not walk that way, to walk normally, is the cerebellum. It's a fairly primitive region of the brain. It sits back here. It helps us to not fall down when we walk. We're going to decide that the zombies, because they don't walk so well, must have something that doesn't work right with their cerebellum, or else they'd be able to chase us better than they can. That's number one. Number two, the other thing you notice is they're always hungry. So while they're stumbling about and shambling, they're looking for food. For unclear reasons, they're craving human flesh. So that's why they tend to come after us. But they don't really chase us. They stumble towards us. What makes them hungry? What makes them never full? Why can't they ever get enough? They seem to be eating guts right and left. That would be the hypothalamus. That's a very, very primitive region of the brain, specifically the ventromedial hypothalamus. That's the region of the hypothalamus that tells you when you've eaten enough. It's called the satiety region. It tells you when you're sated, when you're full. We're going to decide that the ventromedial hypothalamus of the zombie is messed up. So there's something wrong with it, so that it does not receive signals from the colonic neurons that tell it that it's full. Number three, zombies are dumb. They can't figure anything out. They get to windows and they can't open the window. They can barely chase the person they're trying to chase. In fact, if they're coming after me, all I have to do is step aside and then the next person will be the victim. What is it that allows us to make complex decisions, to solve complex problems? That's the frontal lobe. It's right up here in the very front part of the brain. It's the most sophisticated part of the brain. It's the part of the brain that allows us to solve complex problems. So every time I see a zombie who can't open a window, I decide there's something wrong with that zombie's frontal lobe. We're leaving out one thing. What makes them chase you? Why would they be after you all the time? Why do they seem so full of rage? Well, now we've got to go deep into the brain, to the limbic apparatus, and especially talk about a region of the brain called the amygdala. The amygdala is an almond-shaped structure, very, very deep to the brain, very, very primitive. So the essence of a zombie is the amygdala. In humans, the amygdala talks to the frontal lobe, and the frontal lobe says you can either fight, you can run, you can maybe walk away from a fight, but in zombies, they don't have this. So they have the amygdala telling them that they're angry. They've got the ventromedial hypothalamus telling them that they're hungry. They've got no frontal lobe to get in the way, and they've got a cerebellum that can't help them to walk all that well. Hence, you have these stumbling, shambling corpses that we see in these old movies. Finally, every zombie movie, how do you kill them? You gotta shoot them in the head, or hit them in the head, or hit them with a bat. In Shaun of the Dead, they use the bat from cricket. Why is that? The region of the brain responsible for autonomic functions, making you breathe, making your heart beat, things like that, is in the brainstem. What would be the reason that a shot to the head would make a zombie go down? It would be because you would interrupt the functioning of the brainstem and stop them from breathing and stop their hearts from beating. Everybody should know something about zombies. Two reasons for that. One is, we don't know. Maybe someday there could be a zombie apocalypse. Now, obviously, here I'm sort of joking around a little bit. They are fictional characters. But it's helpful to look at these movies as sort of constructs for scientifically what we can learn about the normally functioning brain. Every zombie movie shows these shambling around corpses, and every single time the humans screw it up. What I would hope would happen is the zombies would be brought into the emergency room and the doctors would be asked to see them, and we try to make some sense of whatever horrible plague they've caught and try to find a way to cure it. If we can keep our heads, unlike the zombies, we can beat this thing, including the zombie plague.
Definite connection. In other words, you feel that the radiation on the Venus probe is not high degree of radiation.
Well, just a minute. I'm not sure that that's certain at all. I don't think that has been
logical
irrefutably
explanation that
proved.
we have.